Welcome to season 2 of the Business of Connection. This season is personal. It's about what happens when life shakes us up war, stress, uncertainty, and we still find a way to show up, serve, and grow. I'm bringing you real stories from my clients who grew their businesses during some of the hardest times. They leaned into connection with themselves, with their clients, with their communities. You will hear what happened. You'll hear what helped them keep going, what actually worked when everything felt heavy, and how building meaningful relationships wasn't just good for business, it kept them grounded, focused, and moving forward one small step at a time. And here's the part I want you to really hear. You don't need perfect conditions to grow. You need people, you need support, you need connections. That's the thread in every story you're going to hear this season. These episodes aren't just inspiring, they're a reminder that even the hardest seasons, you are capable of so much more than you think, especially when you're not trying to do it all alone. And today's guest is a beautiful example of that. Dvoranit Schwartz helps people do something deeply meaningful: buy a home in Israel. Over the past 2 years, we've all felt just how important this land is to our people. And Dvoranit's role is helping families, couples, and individuals actualize the dream of ownership here. It's not just business, it's personal, it's national, it's spiritual. She's thoughtful, deeply rooted in service, and truly understands the emotions wrapped into this kind of move. So today, we're talking about what it means to build a business that supports something bigger than yourself through clarity, connection, and commitment. So let's dive in. Welcome. Thank you so much, Dvoranit, for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So we're going to start with how you came to be an entrepreneur. So give us sort of a background in that sense.
So I have a social work degree in social work from Bar Ilan. And the day that I got the official form saying that I completed my bachelor's degree, I was actually late to my first law school class. And law school, someone actually stopped me and said, "Are you planning on actually being a lawyer?" It was clear to me that I was going to go into family law because it's a natural connection between social work and law. And that's really what I did. I started working in a law firm that was family law oriented, but we did a lot of other things. And as we were working on other things, all of a sudden I realized I'm actually enjoying the real estate aspect of it and not as much the family law aspect of it. So I started working more in real estate. It's amazing to see how like things change as life goes
Yeah.
on. But when I was interviewed for my first job, I got the job, and then the lawyer who interviewed me called me up and said, "You're supposed to start in 3 days, but I have one more question for you." I said, "Go ahead, sure." And she said, "My question for you is, are you planning on opening your own law firm in the future?" And I stopped for a second because I never had really thought about it. And I told her, "Yeah, probably." She was like, "Oh, okay, I'll get back to you." And the next day she calls me and said, "Listen, we don't think that it's going to be a good fit and we can't start work."
What was going on in your body when she asked that question for you to say, there's a possibility that I would go out on my own? What was coming through for you?
I always have been very, very ambitious. Already in high school, I was very involved in our, local youth group, and I ran the summer camps when I was 19 and 20 for 1,000 kids in the Gush Etzion area. And I was always very, very ambitious, and I still think I'm very ambitious, and I always try to think, my father keeps asking me, and till this day, I'm 36, he's still asking me this question: what is your 5-year plan? Always aim farther, don't stop where you are now. What is your next step? And that's what went through my head when she asked me, because I think what triggered it was when she asked if in 5 or 6 years I'm thinking of opening my own place. I guess that's what usually people do or at least with her experience, that's when people start opening their own place, was 5 or 6 years. And I guess that 5-year number triggered
Yeah.
something within me from the way I was raised. And I right away said, yeah, that might be my next step naturally. to run my own place and not always work for someone else.
And now you are.
And now I am. So November of 2022, I went into my boss's office and I asked for a raise. And he said, you know, you're bringing in too much money to the firm. It ends up costing me money. So I told him that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Tax,
Yeah.
it makes no sense tax way. But if that's the way you feel, I understand. And the next day I came to him with a suggestion. I said, you know, why don't I open my own firm? All my income will go through my firm, and you'll hire me as, you know, outsourcing to a lawyer, a freelance lawyer, and then we'll see how that works. And, you know, I was already pregnant with my fourth child at that point, and I told him, you know, and, you know, it might be a natural step for me out because I've been working for you for 5 years, you know, and to this day,
And you
by the
had
way,
that
five
deadline.
years, there you go.
You had that deadline in your
5 years. The truth is, I didn't think about it until I said it just now. It was 5 years of me working for
you
him.
manifested that,
It's,
Dvoranit. You
it's amazing.
manifested that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I told him, you know, it might be the natural next step. You know, till this day, we're in really, really good terms. I call him, and when he has questions, when I have questions, we work together on cases when we each need help with the workload. And I told him, you know, it might be the natural next step, and that way I just don't come back. I don't come back at after my maternity leave, and that way it gives you, you know, 6 or 7 months to prepare, and I will, you know, also prepare. And so that's what I did. I went and I opened my own firm. I opened my company and I worked as a freelance lawyer for him for those 7 months. And then at the end of July, I gave birth to my fourth beautiful daughter. And I said, you know, let's see what happens. And in September, I met up with him and I said, you know, I've been thinking about it a lot. I would love to keep working with you on cases, but let's do it separately from now on and not as a freelance because I felt that I would always have his umbrella, you know, kind of like more of a glass ceiling, I guess
Yeah.
that I always have to work through his rules and with the clients that he wants and things like that. And I was ready to do it on my own, not knowing that October 7th was around the corner. I probably wouldn't have changed my course had I known
Again,
it.
you've been manifesting this since
It
since
was it
before you
just
knew
had
it.
it had to happen. It had to happen. But then October 7th happened, and I found myself on October 8th. You know, October 8th, I was supposed to meet with a different coaching a different business coach. I'm happy that
It's
that
okay.
didn't happen. But I was supposed to meet with a different business coach. I was supposed to meet with someone to work on my website. I had this whole thing set up for me because a month after that, I was finishing maternity leave and I was supposed to, you know, blast out of the doors, as it were. But October 7th happened, and my husband was called up at 9:30 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
And then as he left the house, you know, I'm not really proud of this thought, but the first thought that went through my mind was, I guess tomorrow I'm not doing what I was planning.
I think a lot of us were like, yeah, that. I don't think you were the only one.
Yeah. So I was like, life is about to change here more than I understand. And then, you know, my focus went on to my four children who had to say goodbye to their father and many uncles and uncles-in-law who left our house because we had hosted my entire family for Simchat Torah. And so
Right.
everyone left from our house. So there was a lot of goodbyes. But yeah, my first thought was October 8th isn't happening. So that was that. And it took me a good few months afterwards. My husband only came back from his first army stint in the end of March, I think, or maybe February.
Yeah.
February. I can't keep straight,
Yeah.
but by
What
that
and what were
time,
you yeah, what were you doing? Okay,
so
so
I
nothing
was.
happened October 8th. What happened?
So my first decision was I'm not putting my 3-month-old into, well, then she was 2 months old, but I'm not putting her in at 3.5 months as I planned. I'm not putting her into daycare. I need her at home next to me. That was my first decision that I made. If you ask my husband, he had no idea. He also didn't know that the kids were off of school for 2 weeks after that. But he had no idea what was happening at home.
Right, but he was in a different
He was
place.
no, he was fighting. He was fighting. He has his own. He was busy. But my first decision was I'm leaving her at home, and I'm gonna put my business not on a back burner, but it's not gonna be fully in the front as I had anticipated for the time being. My second decision was I'm still keeping the business. I'm not backing down. I'm gonna keep the clients that I have, if I can handle more clients. I mean, the truth is, real estate kind of was on a standstill in any event. But I had my existing clients that needed attention. Those clients kept getting attention during those months. And then when my husband came back in February, I said, okay, now it's time for me to start getting my work in order and figuring out how I'm actually jump starting my business.
And what was the first step?
So the first step was actually making a decision that I'm renting an office outside of my house.
And why was that important to you?
With 4 kids at home, the house is not always as organized as I would want it to be, and so I found myself getting a lot of laundry done, a lot of dishes done, but my to-do list was not getting any shorter for work, and it was getting much longer, and I realized that I am a very organized person. I think every lawyer needs to be organized. Not enough lawyers are organized, but that's one of the things that a lawyer needs, is to be very organized and on top of things. And, the mess at home was causing me a mess in my work. And I decided, you know what? I need to be able to close the door to the house, go to work, focus on work for whatever amount of hours that I can allow myself that specific day, and then come home to my mess and be fully with my children, but be also fully with my work. And so that was the first decision that I made. The second decision that I made was that I need to start a networking connection of some sort. And I started in an English speaking networking group. That's where we actually met, right?
Yes, we did.
And
Why that? Because you and I have talked a lot about networking. We'll talk a little bit more about networking a little bit later on, but why was that where you wanted to start?
some people
I'm
don't believe me when I say it. Some So I am naturally a little more of an introvert until I get to know the person in front of me. I joke with my friends that, in the park, I have a very good friend who's a real estate lawyer. And in the park, if we walk in together, within 30 seconds, everyone knows that he's a real estate lawyer and no one knows what I do.
And we talked about that.
And we've
I
talked
thought that was
about
the
it.
funniest thing. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening, Dvoranit's a real estate lawyer, but she didn't tell her friends. They had no idea that she did it
Right.
for a very long time.
I've gotten much better about it. But I realized that in my natural habitat, I won't be able to talk about it as much. And I needed to be able to practice and also get to know more people in my field or not in my field that can actually grow the circles around me so that can get to know more and more people. And so I made a decision that I'm going to go to this networking group. And it was a very good decision for me. First of all, because I learned to do my 60-second pitch, but also I got to meet you, and that was a great connection for me. So that was my next step. I'm trying to think what my third step was, because the truth was, and I don't know if this is going to be recorded, cut out in the editing or not, but the truth was, because of the way my business grew, I became very comfortable in that situation, and I didn't grow it enough.
Tell me what you mean about that.
I didn't make enough connections. I didn't work on my social media, even though my wonderful business coach was trying to push me to do it. It didn't. It took me months to do my website, which was, it's an ABC.
Yeah.
It's a basic necessity for businesses in this day and age. And it took me a very, very long time to do it because I got very comfortable in the position that I was in. But
What was the position you were in?
so I do a lot of purchasing groups. And so purchasing groups, the way they work is that you have an influx of work for a few months and then it slows down for a while. But you don't always feel the slowing down because you got such a boost in the beginning, so it gets divided over the few months. So you don't notice that you're not developing a pipeline properly and you don't have enough leads that if, there's something that goes wrong with one of these groups and there's a hiccup in the road, then you might find yourself without leads for a few months.
Right. We went over that a lot of
Right.
your income,
Right. But it
the ups and
wasn't,
downs.
but it didn't settle in quite enough until I actually got my first hiccup. I needed to be able to see it in my own eyes. And I think also part of it was I had this whole setup on October 8th. And everything got mixed up and everything got confused. And, my husband's done at this point over 300 days of Miluim. And so he's done over 300 days of reserve duty, which means that I've been with the kids basically alone for 300 days over the past 2 years. So I kind of just went for, I just kind of rolled, and I never just stopped and said, I need to like get everything, all my ducks in a row so that, a business can grow properly. Um,
What I found, and this is one of the reasons I love working with businesses who, as much as I love working with businesses who are starting out, I love working with businesses who have already started to make money, but they never put in the foundations of building a business. And it's no one's fault, because when you're passionate about what you do, you get up in the morning and you love what you do. So you just start. And I think that's the most brilliant thing. And I did it as an event planner. And I ironically, I didn't do it as a business coach just because I built my business. So I knew how to put the foundations in, but I still messed a lot of things up. So I don't want to say I'm perfect, because I'm not, but I'm a great coach.
oh, that's an important one that you need to keep, because you are a great coach. I will also say that I didn't realize, I have my bachelor's in social work, I have my bachelor's and master's in law.
Law. I love,
I have 3 degrees, but no one ever taught me how to run the business. And when and more than that,
which is
people
so
say,
funny, because how many lawyers go out on their own that they
right,
don't have a course
but
in law school?
I'll save him more than that. I worked in a firm for 5 years. I was in charge of making sure that my clients paid. I was in charge of basically everything. But when someone said, okay, so what did they do so that you can learn for here? My response was, all I learned was what not to do, because
Which is
they don't know
huge.
what they're doing, which is huge, but they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's huge, but it's not enough for you to know what yes. And, I'm still figuring it out. And every time I take a step, I say, well, Michal told me to do this about a year ago. And why didn't I do it a year ago? Because it takes time to wake up.
Yeah, but and I say this, everyone takes information differently. I always say, and I think I said this to you, is I'm giving you the tools to grow your business so that when things happen, you have the tools in your arsenal. It might be that you might not listen to me now, but I'm going to be in your head a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is, because my goal is to give you the tools to put the foundations in so that you can build the business the way you want to build the business, but you know how to react when things go not the way you want them to.
Right. And that kind of happened in June. The interest rates for mortgages I mean, the interest rates in general, but they've really
Yes.
affected mortgages. The exchange rate has gone down very drastically, especially for the dollar. And Israeli real estate hasn't halted so much because, especially for international clients, they still understand the importance of having a piece of they understand the importance of owning a piece of land in Israel. But things have definitely slowed down. And especially when you combine July and August, summer vacation, and the Chagim into the mix, things slowed down. And I found myself, thank God, because it wasn't like I didn't have work, but, not enough in my pipeline, enough to make me stressed about it. And then I said, okay, I have to stop for a minute, because this is what Michal told me that might happen. So what do I need to do? And my first thing was I started working on my Facebook and Instagram. And I mean, you know me, but I'm going to say it for the
Yes.
podcast also. It did not come naturally to me at all.
But
Getting
it
in
didn't come,
front,
people think, by the way, I have guys saying to me, like, wow, you're so impressive in front of a camera, blah, blah, blah. This didn't come naturally to me. This was something that I had to work on. And I think we all have to work on it. And some people will never get comfortable showing their faces or talking on video, and some people will. But it's the same as building a habit. It's something that takes time. And for you, it
right.
has taken time. But
And it's still taking time. But
but
I
you're
will say,
amazing. But I'm sorry,
thank
you're
you.
amazing.
First of all,
I
thank
mean,
you.
I think you're fantastic on Instagram, and Facebook. It's like a proud mama bear watching her.
You know, the
Oh,
bird is
the
the chick
bird
is
escaped the.
spreading. But it doesn't come naturally to me even now, but I understand the importance of it because, like 2 weeks into my Facebook, social media, whatever you want to call it, extravaganza, people started stopping me in the park. It's like, oh, I have a question about real estate. And I'm like, wait a minute, this was like always my, anecdote of why people don't know what I do. And it's changing, and I'm really proud of myself that it's changing. And then it also started coming up more naturally in conversations that, you know, I'm a real estate lawyer, and it took a lot of work for me to say I'm also a very good real estate lawyer, and
Yes, you are.
I take good care of my clients. And uh, and some would say that I have OCD. I've been told by other lawyers that I have OCD. I mean, my clients have been told that I have OCD, to which they responded, "Thank God, that's what we want in our lawyer." But, it took me a lot of time to be able to say that sentence. And part of my coaching experience with you was what was able to get me to
Yes.
say that sentence out loud. And I think that it's a very important ability to be able to sell yourself, because if you want someone to trust you, they need to know that you trust yourself. And if you can't say that you trust yourself to do a good job, then why would your client think that you can do a good job?
Right.
They need to bet on you because they don't understand the real estate world. That's why they're hiring me. And so
Right.
that was a lot of work. And I will also say that for the past 2 months, or even more, since the end of June, I've been also trying to develop myself, which is something that wouldn't have happened had I had this little bit of a hiccup in my business. All I needed was a little bit of a jolt, and I'm so happy about it now. I look back and I say, this was the biggest gift that I could have been
Right.
given, because
I think we always say is like, it's not a failure. It's a
it's a
chance
learning
to
experience.
it's a chance. It's never a failure. The difference between entrepreneurs who are going to succeed and we look at the big entrepreneurs out there is if they all failed. The difference is they got right back up and kept going. You learn and then you move. The entrepreneurs who they're like, I'm not doing this. Right. I'm done. I'm out. And by the way, I will say to anyone listening, I have thought about that 100 times in the last 5 years, building this business. That I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years. I don't know when to keep going. I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. And I say to myself, it's okay. Because every time something goes wrong, I learn and I come back as a better coach or a better entrepreneur. And it's the same with you.
And more than that, I started waking up at 5 a.m. and being part of the 5 a.m. club and working out on a daily basis and doing, meditation in different forms, and learning a lot about breaking my habits and building new habits, and a lot of self-help that I probably would have poo-pooed a year or two
It's
ago.
amazing, right?
It's unbelievable. And the truth is, I just told my husband this morning, he's not happy because he's just came back from reserve duty. He has a few days in, a few days out, and he just came back, and then my alarm clock went off at 4:50 this morning, and he looks at me and goes, "Really? Why?" And I was like, "No, I'm getting up and I'm exercising." Yeah, so I'm adding the Friday in because you know what? On Friday, I felt less energetic. So I might
Right.
as well wake up the hour earlier from between, instead of waking up at 6, I'll wake up at 5 and I'll do my workout and I'll do my
Yeah.
meditation and I'll give myself my, mommy time, which I really need in order to become a better, first of all, mother, but also as a better entrepreneur and being able to concentrate on my work during the day, which was something that I've really seen a difference in since I started taking care of myself. And I didn't give myself any, we say in Hebrew, hanachot, any discounts when my
Yes.
husband's not home. I didn't give myself a discount when the winter clock was changed and my children still woke up with me at 5 a.m. And I told them, you know what? Even though it's against everything I believe in, go turn on the TV. Don't talk
Yeah.
to me. This is my time. And
Yeah.
it took a lot of work for me to be able to say that sentence to them so that they really don't bother me and I can give myself that hour that I really needed. And looking back, I'm really proud of myself that I've been going 20 something consecutive days on this 5
Yay.
a.m. club. And every day, by the way, is
Now I'm feeling guilty because I have to get back to that because I was so sick that I'm still not back to 5 a.m. And I miss it. I miss getting up at 5 a.m. Like people think I'm crazy, but I miss it.
but
I
it's
love it.
not. It's such a wonderful gift.
Yeah.
And you know what? Shutting down the house at 9 o'clock in the evening is also not a bad thing.
No, it's amazing. It's what I do. Yeah.
It's been such a great experience for me. And I mean, we didn't plan on talking about the 5 a.m. club, but
No, but But it's a big I believe entrepreneurs out there, if you can, it's as first thing in the morning, you do the hard things because you're awake. But if you don't start your day till 10, 11, 12, then it changes how you work.
But also, you know what? Those small wins in the beginning wins, the fact that, I look at my watch at 5:20 in the morning and my exercise circle is closed. I'm like, I am amazing. I am amazing. And I have to just keep telling myself I am amazing
Well, you are.
because no, but also, loving yourself is also very, very important as an entrepreneur. Even when things are hard, being
Yes.
able to say, I am amazing. I got out of bed at 5 in the morning, no matter how tired I am. I worked out first thing in the morning. I was able to meditate and think about positive notions for the rest of the day. I learned something new before anyone else opened their eyes this morning. That is something that you can't get back.
No, you can't. Tell me a little bit about like because you actually I didn't know this that October 8th you were talking to a business coach. What was the reason then? And then when you realized it was actually time to invest, why it was important for you to invest in a business coach?
So I knew that I was starting something new. I knew to say that I don't know enough about this. I love learning. I'm done with academia, but I love learning and I also love doing things the right way. And so, even if I have a new kind of case, I will take it on, but I will block out 3 or 4 days to learn the subject properly before I do anything else. That's just the way I work. And so it was obvious to me that I don't know how to run a business. And I know, as I said, I knew what not to do, but I don't know what yes to do. And so on October 8th, I was like, okay, this was before Sukkot, before when I scheduled it. But I said, October 8th, I'll give myself a month to have the foundation that sets up my business so that put my baby into when I put my baby into daycare, I can, hit the ground running. That was the thought. I still had a month on my maternity leave, and I wasn't gonna work. And it's very important to me to do things legally. So any client that needed anything, I sent them to my mentor to help me out with that. And it was important for me to start properly. The thing was that because everything got lost in the shuffle, I just kind of hit the ground running without any foundation. And I didn't realize that the ground was wobbly
What does
because
that
I was
mean,
so
wobbly?
busy. The simplest question that an entrepreneur needs to know is how much money they spend every month. I didn't know the answer to that.
Hmm.
I didn't know. I didn't know how much money I need to earn in order to cover my expenses and give myself a salary. These are basics that every entrepreneur needs to know. How do you build a pipeline? How do you make sure that next month it's not, oh, let's hope that you get enough clients, but you
Yeah.
actually know that those clients are going to come because there's something set. These are questions that I didn't have time to stop and ask myself. But then during ESN, I got to know you, and that kind of threw me back to, you know, September of 2023 when I was like, wait a minute, I never did that. All the things that I had thought about, I never actually followed through with it, and I need to follow through with it. But I was already so busy with my clients that even the things that we did talk about and that made a lot of sense, I didn't always stop and say, okay, 1 second. I know that you're very busy, but you need to block off 2 hours right now to do what Michal told you to do. Sometimes I was able to do it, and sometimes I wasn't able to do it. And when I wasn't able to do it, I started doing it in June of 2025.
That's
All the,
okay.
and yeah, and you know what? Again, looking back, I wouldn't change anything. It
Yeah.
was a learning curve, or it is a learning curve, and I'm sure that there will be a lot more that I need to learn in the future.
As your coach, no entrepreneur is the same. And there are people who are going to implement it. And during this series, because this is episode one of season two, we're going to see how different people implemented the information that they learned over the time getting coaching. But no entrepreneur is the same. And so every entrepreneur will take the information and implement it when they are ready. Some implement it straight away. Some implement it a year, 6 months, 3 years down the line. Every entrepreneur is different, But if they don't ever hear it, then they can't implement it.
Right. And more than that, there are things that I also, I still haven't implemented and I will implement them. And there will always be things that you need to improve. I feel like even the largest entrepreneurs out there, if you keep your business at where it is, then it's gonna fall back. You always need to improve and move things forward and get things done that you didn't get done before. Part of my process now was also being able to accept that.
Yes.
I'm used to doing everything the best that I can. I'm used to things, working the way I plan them. And part of the lesson of being an entrepreneur is that things get thrown at you that you weren't expecting. And that's okay also. That's part of the learning curve. And
Yes.
that's part of growing. And you always want to grow. If you ask me what my 5-year plan now is, my 5-year plan now is to have about 10 lawyers working for me and, growing my business and being able to focus on the business aspect of it and my clients so that we can keep giving the best legal advice that we can give as a team. My first step was, and we might talk about this in a few minutes also, hiring and firing, which was also a very difficult process
Yeah.
for me.
What I found is when you get to that point where you're growing and you're at the point of scaling, which is when you start onboarding your first employee, what does that look like? And I will tell you that in most cases with my clients, it's been a very big failure, partly because my clients didn't necessarily listen to what I felt would be right for them and they went with their gut, which is great as an entrepreneur, but it doesn't always work well when onboarding your first employee. And when we in this season we'll meet with one client who we didn't end up onboarding an employee. We went a different route, just it made more sense for her financially and mentally. But you are not the only one that and we can talk about it now of when you were ready to onboard your first employee, you might not have listened to everything I said in that
No,
factor.
no. But I will say that I'm happy that I went that route because I learned a lot about what I'm looking for, both in an employee and someone that I see all the time. One of my employees that I had to fire was not someone that I wasn't happy with their work. I wasn't happy with their social skills. And I don't think until I had to, say goodbye, I don't think that I realized how important the office
Environment.
environment, how important it was for me until I realized that I'm not coming to my office because I find it unpleasant to be around them. And then I realized, okay, this needs to end. Even though the work is being done and the work is being done well, work environment is something that's very, very important to me.
If you would give to any entrepreneur who's onboarding their first staff person, right, full staff person, what would you say is like, give 3 things that would be really important for them
Okay.
when you're
So
bringing in someone to your office, whether it's admin, whether it's someone, marketing, whatever it is.
so I will say the first thing that you need to make sure is that you are very clear about what the rules are. I do not like confrontation,
No,
which
you
is
don't.
funny because I'm a
Because you're a lawyer.
lawyer.
Yes.
I'm a lawyer.
But you were a
Well,
social worker first.
I'm a social worker first, and more than that, when I need to be when I need to confront someone for my client, I do it very well. When I need to confront someone for myself, I don't do it as well. So if I have to fight for my client, I will, my claws will come out. And the truth is I was pretty good at litigation because of that. I just didn't like having to use my claws so often. I scaled back litigation. But when it comes to my rules and the way I want things done, I was not able to put my foot down, and I'm still working on it. I have an amazing employee now, you know, a friend who's both a lawyer and a CPA, and he gives, my clients the extra mile that we need to give when it comes to taxation and things like that. But until he came, I wasn't able to say, I expect you in the office at a certain time. I expect you to get a certain amount of work done. No, you can't take 18 days of vacation in 8 months. And that's a true story.
Yes, it is.
And no, I'm not going to pay you for those vacation days because you need the salary. I paid her. And only after that, when she started taking even more advantage, I was like, okay, Mr. Nice Guy has to stop at a certain point. So, right. And the truth is, and
You and not only that, you have your father-in-law. Can I just bring in your father-in-law? Your father-in-law is a very successful businessman,
yes,
and you said he's a little scary, right? And he has given you many advice, which was ironically the same advice me, who also hates confrontation. Please understand, I hate confrontation. But your business coach told you to be a little more confrontational, and your father-in-law, who's takes no take hostages kind of thing, and still you were like, I don't
it
want to be
still
mean.
took me 2 months.
Yes,
And, so the first thing is very important, those rules, because first of all, in Israel, labor law is very worker friendly. And so if you don't lay the rules down from the get-go, you can really pay for them later on. And that's something
right.
that people have to understand. I am not a labor lawyer, but speak to your lawyer in order to understand what that means. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I'm still learning, as I said, my worker slash partner is work partner is a great worker. I'm still working on being able to delegate properly because I like things done the way I like things done.
Yes, you
I
do.
want to be in control of things and I want to know that my client is getting the best service and the best legal representation that they can get. But I also have to know that if I hired someone and if I'm working with them and I trust them enough, then I have to also delegate and give them work so that I stop working, 12 or 14-hour work days and let them help me because
Right.
that's what they're there for and that's what I'm paying them for.
And I just want to say it's probably what I've seen is, and I will say this as an event planner in my previous business, that was I think why it took me so long to potentially bring on board someone, and then corona happened, was that no one can replace me. No one can be me. And that's a big issue for entrepreneurs when we're hiring our onboarding our first staff person, especially if it's to replicate what we do on a daily basis rather than it's admin or marketing. But when they're coming in to replicate you, to be another you, give or take, it is very hard for us as people who built their business on themselves, as in we are the brand.
It's
It's a
my name.
service.
No,
Right. We're a
right. It's
service
my service.
provider.
I
It's
mean,
our name.
my
How do we
my law
right?
firm is Dvoranit. That's
Right.
a law
Same with
firm.
Michal, Kaye events Israel. Like it was very much like, how do I set off to someone else to be as good as me so that I can work less and have a social life and build the business even further.
Right.
But it took me and it's something I've learned and which is what I say to clients early on is when I see it is I wasn't able to grow the business and I grew big, but to the detriment of burning out, to the detriment of not having a life, of not having healthy habits, of not being able to take vacation. And so when you have that, it's very much like I learned and one of, as a coach, I try and get it so that people don't go through what I went through to the point because it's very hard to pass that over to someone.
Think about my vacation when we finally did go away.
Yes.
Remember? We finally went away for 2 weeks in last November for Thanksgiving to my husband's family back in the United States. And, I said, I'm taking 2 weeks. I had an employee. She was on for over a month already. She wasn't a new lawyer. And so I said, okay, I'll be able to check my emails, check my WhatsApps, but I'll be on vacation. I landed in Minnesota. My phone was off for 24 hours until we got to cold Minnesota. And I turn on my phone and I have about 600 uh, unanswered WhatsApps and phone calls and emails. And I'm like, what is going on? And for those 2 weeks, I went to sleep every night with the kids at 9 o'clock. And when I didn't, because we were hanging out with family, I was up, but I was up at 3 a.m. working. And from 3 to 7, I worked. And then at 7, when the kids started waking up, I kept them busy for the rest of the day, just waiting for it to be 3 o'clock in Israel so that everyone would leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I realized that this is out of control and that something needs to change.
That was the gong.
That was the gong. I wasn't able to change it enough. It's a process. Like
Yep.
I said, it's a learning curve, and I'm still learning it to be able to just let go and be able to say, I gave them the job. I gave them the specific task. I don't have to check up on them every 10 minutes to see if it was done.
Yeah. Letting go.
And that's a very big, it's a very big lesson.
It's a very hard thing for entrepreneurs, and I think it's probably our hardest lesson when it's something that is our baby, that is so personal to us. And as a service provider, how do we do that? And how do we balance that? To grow, to scale, to create consistent income, to create, the business that you've manifested already, 5 years ago to like 5 years from now. That's that learning curve of how do we get to the next level.
Right,
And it's really interesting because we say is to get to the next level, you have to start actually doing what you love doing and be the boss so
right.
that you can bring on new clients. And it's very, very hard.
It's
Very
more
hard.
than that because I don't like marketing. As I said, I am more of an introvert. And I realized that if I want to grow my business, just as you said, I have to stop doing the nitty-gritty law, which I like, and start working on the things that I don't enjoy. I can't sit in front of a contract for 4 hours. I need to post my next video. I have to go meet mortgage brokers and realtors in order to make those connections, even if I'm very uncomfortable doing it, because that's the only way to grow the business. And I have to really focus on my 5-year plan.
Yes, you do. I just want to talk about the investment you made into the coach. And if people were thinking about it or not sure about it, what do you say to people if you're making money but you want to make more? That the foundations you never actually implemented at the beginning. Like, what would you say to this was the best investment I made, or this wasn't the best? A lot of people like start businesses. Oh, I don't need coaching, or I'm fine, or etc. etc. And I agree. I mean, I'm a person who right now doesn't have a coach, but I know that as of March next year, I'm getting a coach because I'm just taking a break right now. But because I'm working on my social media, like that's my priority right now. And I've invested in a social media coach. So what would you say to someone who's like, I really don't need it. I'm fine. I'm okay. Like for you, you were looking at it when you first started and then you came into it a year later.
So, you know what I realized? I spent 3 years in law school, another year doing an internship, then I studied for the bar, and then I spent 5 years learning how to be a lawyer in a different firm. Those are a lot of hours that were invested in learning my profession, and I'm still learning every day. Being an entrepreneur is a profession in of its own. You need to learn how to do it, and you don't know how to do it naturally. You don't. You know how to be a lawyer. You know how to be I don't know, an engineer, whatever it is. You know how to do your job. You don't know how to be an entrepreneur. You don't know how to run a business. So just like you invested in learning your profession, you need to invest in learning how to be an entrepreneur. If you ask me, until we start working together, people would ask me what I am. I would say I'm a lawyer. For the past few months, I answer, and I think it's also part of, publicizing what I do, but I'm also a business owner. I own my law firm. And that's not less than being a lawyer. And so I need to learn how to do that properly. And just like I constantly am in classes and trying to learn how to become a better lawyer and have all the information that I need for my clients, I also need to be the best entrepreneur that I can be. And so I always have to learn how to do that. And so if it's, listening to audiobooks or podcasts or having a business coach and knowing how to do it, because I don't know how to build my own financial whatever page. I
That we
don't know
built.
how that we built. I don't know how to figure out my pipeline and what's expected, my expected annual income. I don't know how to divide my annual income into my monthly income and decide how much money I need, which is something that we did,
We also did.
right? But I'm saying I don't know how to do it on my own. That's what
Yes.
I need a business coach for. And so if someone asks me, and by the way, people have asked me because I have friends who now slowly, a lot of the people that I went to law school with are now opening their own law firms. And, they come to me because I have so much experience. They come to me to ask questions. And I say, the first thing you need to know is how to run a business. And it's exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting, especially because it's not something you want to do. I never wanted to be a CPA. That doesn't mean
Right.
I can't know how to read my financial pages.
We need to. We
I need
need
to know
to.
how to read my financial reports.
And I laugh because you and I said, like, I say I work with creative entrepreneurs, and then Dvoranit goes, I'm a lawyer and I'm creative. You're very, very proud of that. And I'm very proud to say that when people say, what does that mean, creatives? Because I say I had a lawyer. Because you always, as a lawyer, always trying to find a way to help your clients. You have to be creative. And I remember you saying that to me, and I was like, you're right. A creative entrepreneur isn't just an artist. A creative entrepreneur is someone who starts, they love doing what they love doing, but they also have to be smart of how to do it. And they have to find creative ways to do their job. And I love when you said that to me. It's like one of the reasons I wanted to start this season, which is very much about businesses, Jewish businesses going through October 7th, building their businesses, hiring a coach. But it was all those little things that happen for you to be able to get to the next step, and how history changed the way we worked in our businesses, changed the way our minds work. And you saying to me, oh, of course I'm a creative. And I just thought, now you're giving advice to other entrepreneurs or other lawyers, etc.
But it's more than that. I'll tell you what, if you asked me on October 8th, let's say October 7th didn't happen, okay? And you had asked me on October 8th, what is your goal? I never wanted to have employees. And I think I even told you that. It was never
Yeah.
one of my goals. My goal was to just stay, in my own corner and have my, 5, 6, whatever amount of clients that I can handle at a time. And that was it. But then October 7th happened. And I realized that I don't want to work around the clock all the time. I want to be able to spend more time with my children. And if there's something that October 7th highlighted was how fragile life is.
Yes.
We've personally or as a nation have experienced so much loss in the past 2 years. And
And you built a business with your husband away with four
right.
kids,
Yeah.
300 days of the last 2 years.
Yeah. And we still have 100 days to go. But in this stint, there'll be
Yeah.
more. Don't worry, guys. I'll keep giving my part to the country. But it made me realize how fragile life is. And you know, people ask me what makes me a better lawyer than other people. I don't like that question. I don't like that question because I don't like comparing myself to other
What's your
people. But
unique?
what
What
makes
is your
but
superpower?
what makes me a good lawyer? So I think the first thing is I feel like I'm a good person. The first thing that, I won't take on a case if I don't think that the case is the right thing. I will in Hebrew, in Judaism, we believe that one of the questions that we will be asked one day when we hopefully make it to heaven will be Ha'im nasata v'natata be'emunah. Did you run your business properly and
Yeah.
with the Jewish beliefs
Honesty
and
and yeah.
honesty and straightforwardness? And I can tell you that last week I turned down a project that would have been extremely lucrative for me because I didn't think that the other side would be able to deliver what they promised, and I didn't want that for my clients, and I turned it down. And so that's the one thing that I
Yeah.
have a note on in front of me that's the question. Ha'im nasata v'natata be'emunah. And that's what leads me when I make decisions. In addition to everything else, my grandmother, who was very, very close to me, passed away Erev Pesach a year and a half ago. My grandmother was very, very special to me, and the last 3 weeks of her life, she was in hospice at my parents' house. We brought her, we being me, my husband, and my 3 kids, actually physically brought her here. We used to joke with her that we kidnapped her to make Aliyah in the beginning of COVID because we happened to be there and we didn't tell her that she's probably not going to get on a plane back to America anytime soon. Just yeah, she like asked me, should I wear the black pants or the blue pants or like pack both? Anyway, her last 3 weeks of her life, there wasn't a single minute, and I'm not exaggerating, a single minute around the clock that a family member wasn't next to her. If it was her grandchildren, her great grandchildren, or her daughters, or her son in laws.
Yeah.
We slept next to her. We always made sure someone was next to her when she was awake, when she was asleep. And, it's such a beautiful legacy from when I look at it and I say, I really want my family to love me so much for me to be so important to them that they will stop their lives for me. And looking back, I want to have that time with my children and with my husband and with my family. And that's what changed also my 5-year goal, because I said I won't be able to be around my kids. I won't be able to do homework with them. I don't want a babysitter to open the door for them when they come home. I want to be able to be the one there. I want to sit with them in family dinners. I want to be able to do family trips and make family memories together. And the only way that I can do that is if I grow my business and I onboard people as my business naturally grows. And so I want my business to naturally grow so that I can be with my family. And I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive,
No, it doesn't.
but it's something that's very important to me. And so that's when we made the decision. You helped me make the decision that it's time to onboard my first employee, because I want to spend more time with my family. And that is something that changed on October 7th.
So we're going to wrap this up. If you can give a little bit of strength to other entrepreneurs who are in the stage you were before you decide to invest in that big thing, i.e. the coach, the person, the concept, what would be a little strength that you can give to someone?
So I will say, like you had mentioned that in the past 5 years, you've thought of quitting, 100 times.
Yeah.
So I had that thought too, but I said I'm not going back to working for anyone. That's not going to happen. And I believe in my product. My product is made, by the way. I believe in my product, and I believe that I can give the best service that I can give, and I give good service to my clients. And if you really believe in your service and you believe in your product as an entrepreneur, then you have to just push through it, because at the end of the day, if you expect it all to be roses and lilies, then life doesn't work that way, and life doesn't work that way in any aspect. And
Yeah.
so, your business isn't any different than any other aspect in your life. You really have to believe in your product. You have to believe in yourself. You have to do everything in your power to keep growing and moving forward. And one of those things is learning the basics of running a business. And doing that is with a teacher or with some kind of mentor, because you don't know. You can't learn how to read a financial document on your own. Or I mean, you can Google it, you can Claude it, Chat GPT it, whatever, but you also don't know what you're missing or what you don't know. So speak to someone who has the knowledge. Speak to someone who has the information, right? Because you'll never know what to do. You'll know what not to do based on your previous experiences. Most likely you won't have enough of a background to run it properly. I will also say that, you can go through life learning from your mistakes, and you will also be learning from your mistakes. That's definitely going to happen. But you can make less mistakes. So how do you make less mistakes? By learning from someone who has the information.
And if you look at yourself now in your business, are you making more money?
Yes.
Okay. Are you working less?
Not enough. I still have to work on delegating.
Okay.
But
But
I
you know
am
what you
working a
need to
lot
do.
less, but I'm working a lot less than I would be working. If I have an employee who works full time and I work full time, imagine what would happen if I didn't have the employee.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not like he's sitting and twiddling his thumbs all day.
No,
That's
he
not,
is not.
no, no. I'm putting him to work. And so at the end of the day, I am working less than I would. It's probably time, or soon it's going to be time to onboard my next employee.
Yay.
But we're taking it one step at a time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really happy you got here and you got to enjoy this. And if you're looking to buy real estate in Israel, please look up Dvoranit Schwartz. She is amazing and she speaks Hebrew and English, and she will work tirelessly to make sure you get the right deal. Thank you very much again, and we'll see you next time.